picture a sleepy little town in Pennsylvania where summer means fireflies and 4th of July barbecues. A place where kids ride bikes until dusk and everyone knows your name. Now imagine that same town with a secret so dark it chills you to the bone. For 20 years, every summer a kid vanished in Ellswood. No clues, no bodies, just gone. I'm gonna tell you a story that'll make you rethink that next lake swim. Hit subscribe, grab a blanket, and let's dive into the hunger beneath. Trust me, you're not ready for this. Ellswood was the kind of place you'd see on a postcard. Main Street had a diner slinging burgers, a hardware store with creaky floors, and a bar where old-timers swapped stories over cheap beer. But there was one thing we didn't talk about much: the disappearances. Every summer, like some grim ritual, a kid would vanish. No screams, no trace. The county sheriff would send out search parties, divers would scour the woods, but nothing. It was like the kids had been erased. Folks had their theories, of course. Some swore it was a serial killer slipping through the cracks. Others whispered about creatures in the shadows, something not quite human. But most of us, we blamed Willow Lake. That lake was something else. Tucked deep in the woods, it sparkled like a sheet of glass, so clear you could see every pebble in the shallows. It was the heart of Ellswood summers. Kids splashing, teens sneaking beers, families picnicking by the shore. But it had a dark side. No fish swam in its waters, no birds nested nearby. And at its center, a current pulled hard like the lake was breathing hungry. Old-timers said it was an underground river, but no one could prove it. After too many ignored warnings, the sheriff put up buoys and signs. Stay out. Danger. Didn't stop the disappearances, though. The lake kept its secrets, and we kept pretending it was just water. Me, Jake, and Sarah grew up with those stories. We were tight, the kind of friends who'd share a milkshake at the diner or sneak into the woods with a stolen six-pack. Willow Lake was our spot. We'd swim until our skin burned, daring each other to paddle past the buoys. Jake, with his goofy grin and wild ideas, would cannonball into the deep end. Sarah, all fire and no fear, would race him to the center and back. Me? I was Danny, the quiet one, always planning our next move but never saying no to their crazy schemes. The lake felt like ours, curse or no curse. We were kids. Nothing could touch us. By the summer of 2019, we were 17, staring down our last year of high school. College was coming, and with it, the end of our endless summers. We weren't ready to let go, so we cooked up a plan over fries at the diner. Solve the mystery of the missing kids. Dumb? Sure. But we were itching for one last adventure. Something to prove we were more than just small-town kids. We scraped together cash from summer jobs, mowing lawns, flipping burgers, and bought a bunch of cheap trail cameras. The idea was to set them up around the woods, especially near the lake where most kids vanished. We'd catch whatever was taking them, maybe even save someone. Heroes, right? God, we were naive. The woods around Willow Lake were thick, all tangled roots and shadows. The lake's weird shape made it tough to cover from shore, so we spent days hiking, hiding cameras in trees and bushes. We pulled old articles from the library mapping where kids had last been seen. Most spots were near the water, some right by the buoys. The lake's center was a blind spot. No camera could see it from land. So we camped out, pitching tents under the pines, telling ourselves we were on a mission. Really, it was an excuse to stay kids a little longer, roasting hot dogs and laughing under the stars. But even then I felt it, a prickle on my neck like the lake was watching. June turned to July, sticky and slow. We checked the cameras every day, but it was just squirrels and wind. Doubt crept in. Maybe the stories were just that. Stories cooked up to scare kids. Then August hit, and everything went to hell. A kid named Alex Carter, 7 years old, with a grin full of missing teeth, disappeared. He'd been at the lake with his big sister tossing a baseball. She turned to grab a soda, and when she looked back, Alex was gone. The baseball was floating on the water, bobbing like a taunt. The town lost it. Sheriff's deputies combed the woods, divers went in, but zip. Another kid swallowed by the lake. We huddled in my garage, hearts hammering, and went through the footage. Hours of nothing, just trees swaying, water glinting. Sarah cursed, slamming her fist on the workbench. "It's the center," she said, her eyes fierce. "We're missing the damn center." She was right. The buoys, the current, that's where it was happening. I'd just blown my last paycheck on a waterproof GoPro. It wasn't fancy, but it could handle the deep. We'd tie it to a rope, hook up a flashlight, and send it past the buoys to see where that current led. Stupid? Yeah, but we were desperate, and desperation makes you reckless. Next morning, we borrowed Jake's dad's beat-up canoe and paddled out. The lake was dead still, the buoys bobbing like warning lights. We crossed them, the water tugging at our paddles, warm in a way that felt wrong, like it was alive. I lowered the GoPro, the rope slipping through my hands. We counted the depth, marking knots. 20 feet, 30, 50. The lake was supposed to max out at 50, but the rope kept going. 70, 90, 100. We stared at each other, stomachs twisting. The rope stayed tight, pointing straight down, not drifting. It was like the lake had no bottom, just a throat pulling deeper. At 150 feet, we ran out of rope. Something tugged hard, nearly yanking me overboard. We hauled it back, the canoe rocking, and raced home. In my room, we plugged in the GoPro, hands shaking. The footage was shaky, the flashlight's beam slicing through clear water. At 50 feet, we saw the lake bed, muddy, littered with rocks. Then a flicker, a hole, no bigger than a kid pulsing in the sediment. It opened and shut like a mouth gasping for air. The current surged, sucking the camera in. My breath caught. This was it. The lake's secret, alive and hungry. The GoPro got dragged through a tunnel, narrow and twisting, barely wide enough for a child. It scraped along, then popped into a massive cave, dark and endless. The flashlight flickered, catching walls that glistened like wet skin. The camera sank deeper, and then we saw him, Alex. His tiny body was tangled in things growing from the walls. Not plants, not quite. Tendrils pulsing like veins, their tips burrowing into him. His baseball jersey was in shreds, his bones poking through what was left of his skin. He was being eaten, dissolved by those things. Sarah choked back a sob. Jake's face was gray, his hands clenched. The camera kept dropping, and that's when we saw the worst of it. The cave floor was a graveyard. Bones, hundreds, thousands, piled like driftwood. Animal skulls, human spines, tiny ribs that had to be kids. Some were old, crumbling. Others were fresh, still wrapped in scraps of cloth. The flashlight caught a flash of color. Alex's sneaker half buried. This wasn't just a cave, it was a stomach feeding on anything the lake could take. We sat there, frozen, the footage looping. Our big plan, our shot at being heroes. It led us to this. A nightmare we couldn't unsee. We burned the footage onto a USB and drove to the sheriff's station. I handed it over, my voice barely a whisper. "You need to see this." We didn't stick around. What could we say? that the lake was alive, eating kids for decades. By fall, Willow Lake was locked down. Chain link fences, no trespassing signs, the works. The town went quiet like it was holding its breath. The disappearances stopped, but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like the lake was waiting, biding its time. That was 6 years ago. I'm 23 now, but I'm not the same Danny. Jake's a ghost of himself, barely talks, just drifts through jobs. Sarah's in college, but her texts are short, heavy with what we saw. Me. I dream of the lake every night. Its water still, those tendrils reaching up. We wanted one last summer, one big story to tell. Instead, we found a truth that broke us. So what was it? Some freak of nature, a plant gone wrong? Or something older, something that's been hungry forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this got under your skin, smash that like button and subscribe for more. But a word of warning. Next time you're by a lake, don't go near the deep end. You don't know what's down there waiting.